Hi, this is Kungfu Grant from Darsana Martial Arts, and today I'm going to teach you how to tie your Kung Fu sash. So whether you're a Kung Fu kid, age 3 to 6, or one of our junior warriors, age 7 to 13, your sash is going to be one long piece of fabric. So tying it can be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you how I tie it on myself, and if you're a junior, this is probably how you want to tie it on. So I start out just taking part of the length and putting it against my back. Notice how I have one end that's short and one end that's long. The short end should be, if it's pinned to my hip, about the length of, say, 3/4 of my thigh. It's almost down to my knee. I'm going to pin that right to my hip and just let it hang down. Then I'm going to take the long end and I'm going to wrap it around and overlap that point where I pinned it. So the two are pinned together. And then I'm going to keep wrapping it all the way around my back, overlapping the part I've already wrapped. Once I have that there, I'm going to hold the short end snug, and then I'm going to take a deep breath in, and then I'm going to pull the long end away from my hip to make the wrap nice and tight. Now you don't have to make it too tight, just find that just right feeling so that it feels snug but not overly tight. All right, once you've done that, you're going to wrap back around, still overlapping your sash, coming back over the short end. You're going to go over the short end, loop under and through and tie it to make your first knot. I didn't go all the way through the whole sash to come back out the top. I just went over and under and through where the short end was to make my first knot. I still have a long end and a short end, so I'm going to take that long end and go back over the other direction over the short end, and once again loop over and under. When I pull through, I'm only going to pull through very close to the base of my long end so that I get just a loop like that. I don't want to pull the whole thing through and then just have a tight knot. So once I have my single knot, I'm going to take the long end, go over the short end, underneath it, just taking these two fingers, or finger and thumb, going through, grabbing a hold of the long end. With my other hand, I'm taking a hold of the short end. I'm going to pull the short end down and pull the loop through. All right, I'm going to fan out my loop, and I've tied my Kung Fu sash on. You should have 2 little tails and 1 loop, and it should be right on your hip. You can take a breath in and scooch it around to adjust it to the side a little bit. That way the knot's not in the way of your techniques. Okay. Now, if you're a parent and you have a Kung Fu kid, this is a lot of fabric to tie on your Kung Fu kid. So what I like to do to make it quicker and easier is I fold it in half. And now you have half the length to tie around your Kung Fu kid. And I have a Kung Fu kid to give me a hand. Well, close to a Kung Fu kid. All right, so what I do when I'm tying a sash on a Kung Fu kid is I've folded my sash in half. And then I'm going to go through the exact same procedure that I went through when I tied it on myself. I'm going to put the sash across the back. I'm going to pin a short end to the hip of my Kungfu Kid. I'm going to take the long end and I'm going to wrap around the front. Now the difference with your Kungfu Kid or your Junior Warrior is with the Kungfu Kid, if you folded the sash in half, and you can do this with a junior too, especially if your Junior Warrior is a little thinner, they can fold it in half and it'll make it easier for them if they don't want to wrap it around several times. So once you've pinned the short end to the hip, you're going to take the long end, go over, and you're going to bring it through and tie it. Now because you folded it in half, your long end has two tails already. But that's not your tails. You have to treat the two parts like one length. So after you've tied your first knot, you're going to take that same long end, just like before. You're going to go back over. You're going to take it under. And once again, you're just going to pull a loop through. You're going to pull the short end down. As you pull the loop through, then you can fan out your loop, and you have two little tails and your loop, and your sash is tied on your Kungfu Kid. One more time. I have the short end. I have a long end. I go around. I take my long end over, under, and through, pull my first knot nice and tight. Now, to ask your child to take a little breath in when you tie it, but you don't want to tie it too tight, especially with your Kungfu Kids. They start complaining it's too tight, even if it's not. But you should be able to fit a couple fingers inside and feel like there's a little bit of wiggle room, but not too much, because if there's too much wiggle room as they start moving around, it's going to come untied. So pull it snug. Long end goes back over. Once again, under. And once again, just take a little loop through and pull the short end down. Fan your loop out. And your Kungfu Kid has their sash on. When I actually tie the belts on the Kungfu Kids, I usually have them face me. Once you get good at that knot, it may be easier. You can just have them throw their arms up, toss the belt behind them, wrap it over in front, reach through, tie your first knot, over, under. Normally they just don't, randomly fall down. And pull your loop through. It doesn't matter which hip it's on, as long as it's on the side. I'll show it one more time from the other side. So you have your Kungfu Kid facing you, getting them ready for class. You've taken the sash and folded it in half. Take the short end behind. Make sure you've got, about a quarter of the length sticking out on one side, 3/4 on the other side. Wrap the 3/4 length around. Tie your first knot. Then take the long end back over the short end, under, and through. And your Kungfu Kid has their sash on. Thank you. All right, I hope this helped. We'll see you next time.